can ask.
What was your social life like in college?
In college, that's a very good question. I started out. What happened is I went to Berkeley because one of my buddies, Gene Weiss, said I should go to Berkeley. I didn't even make a choice of what school to go to. He made the choice, and we took the engineering test. He was in engineering chemistry, and I went in engineering physics. And then we had a fight outside his house on Kings Road, right off of Beverly Boulevard. And we were working together that summer between high school and the beginning of school. And he got very mad at me, and he started to pound my head into the ground. And so I no longer wanted to room with him. Okay, that's the first and most important social life incident. So I had to get a place at the last minute to live at Berkeley. And I lived in a rooming house, which rooming houses don't exist anymore. But these would rent out rooms and they would serve meals. They weren't like fraternities at all, right? It was a grab bag of people, dropouts from other situations. And it was a fabulous place to live. I'm still friends with Donald Spigarelli, who worked as a server for meals there. And he's a rich guy, lives in Groton here. And we hung out together. And there was this guy, Weiss, who, there were a bunch of characters. Everybody was a character. And I had a roommate who was so conventional and so straight-laced. But I also, next door, there was, I don't know if it was a sorority or a rooming house, but there was all girls. And I became friends with this girl whose father was a Republican congressman from Santa Barbara, and I used to tutor her in chemistry. And I was just a fabulous physical chem student. And I used to like going over to the house and hanging out with all the girls. And I was popular. I didn't have any friends the first semester outside of that. The second semester I moved into the most prestigious dorm on the Berkeley campus called Bowles Hall. It was a castle. There is no equivalent at Harvard because this was really fancy. But it had living rooms, and you know, there are no living rooms in Harvard dorms, are there?
We have common rooms.
Yeah, but they're big. They're not just for two people.
No, they are. Well, they're for however many people are in the room, like 2, 3 to 4.
Yeah,
5.
well, yeah, but they're not usually for two, especially for freshmen. Well, at Bowles Hall, the University of California had exploded. This is 1957. And in 1957, the first student movement basically started at Berkeley. And it's all written up in the Free Speech Movement website, so I'm not going to go into it. But there was one guy in Bowles Hall who was a leader in Slate, which was the student political party. And remember, this is during the McCarthy era. And I really felt very strongly, I was very anti-communist, but I was very pro letting communists speak and be represented. and to, you know, I thought everybody had a right to speak. And I've always, that's been a large part of my political life. And at that time it was social, because Slate was a political party, and I lived with 3 Navy guys. They were all in Navy ROTC, and they were really right wing. I mean, not slightly right wing, but really right wing. And they smoked, and they stayed up late at night, and I always needed 9 hours sleep, and I had to live in the common room, and it was horrible. And they hated Slate, which was the political party, so I had to look into Slate. I remember walking back to Bowles Hall, and I was already a weirdo. I mean, I already had a briefcase, and I already had a tweed jacket, and you know, I was out of 800 students, I was the #1 student in chemistry, and but I did play bridge, and I didn't do well that semester, and I left, and I went and lived in Hotel Durant. It was so terrible, the social life in Bowles Hall. Oh, they tried me. They tried me for carrying a briefcase. There was a sort of a, and that really radicalized me even more. They questioned my social behavior. And I had run clubs in junior high. I mean, I was very socially adept. I had organized a citywide club, and it had different classes in it, and backgrounds of people that had been thrown out of school, people would steal, you know. And they were all welcome. We didn't have a blackball system. And everybody else, you know, they were either religious clubs like YMCA, or church clubs, or there were fraternities, and I was against all of them. So I already knew my way around socially, and in high school I really had three groups of friends. And so I was not, well, actually I had 4. I again hung out with all the girls at Hollywood High, even though I didn't go to Hollywood High. And so I had a very active social life by my junior year. And my friend from nursery school and I were really good friends. And I would go to summer school. And I had a car, so I dated, and I had a girlfriend in junior high who I was madly in love with.
What was she like?
Well, I just saw her, and she was 70 when I saw her, 72, and she. Very smart. She went to the University of California, Santa Barbara, but ended up at Long Beach State. And one of my best friends from junior high, well, we did end in a fight over religion. And she still was a volunteer at her church and did a lot of very good social things. Very pro-social, and very smart, and very opinionated. And I loved the fact she was so opinionated. And she was great sexually. I mean, junior high, making out and doing all those things. And She wanted to go to bed with me. I was afraid. I was, this is 1953. There was no sexual revolution. You know, I mean, you just didn't do those things from our class. Her father was a very famous director and producer. He did the Annie Oakley series on TV. He also did some of the major horror movies of the 30s. And he was an alcoholic. But I did see her, and she really was as great a person as she was. But we fought over religion. I was clearly an atheist, didn't believe in free will, and I made fun of religion. She couldn't take it. She broke up with me, and I was really heartbroken because I really liked her. I still like her. I think she's a great person. And it saddened me that she had heart disease, but she had a pretty good life. She had 4 kids, and one of her kids is an atheist, you know. And she found me, I think that even after all those years, she found it difficult. But would you be quiet?
I'm sorry.
You really have no manners.
I thought I was very small. But
Yeah, well, small is being totally quiet.
Alright, I'm quiet.
This is not about you. I might have to redo this whole section, and I don't appreciate it.
I'm quiet now. I'm sorry.
I don't care about sorry. Now you're being like the masked man.
Don't want no sorry.
Right, or like Gibbs on NCIS. If you apologize, you're showing weakness. Anyway,
How did you meet Patty?
wait, well, we're not done. So, I was going out. One woman that I went out with was Wallstetter, Joni Wallstetter. And her father was one of the inventors of MAD, Mutual Assured Destruction, at RAND. And at the time, it sounded to me like a terrible idea. Now I think it was a great idea. So I'm not one of these people who in any way are wedded at all to political positions. I rethink things. I think I was anti the use of the atom bomb when I was a freshman, but I now think it was very humane to use the atom bomb. I mean, we're killing that many people with conventional bombs in Japan. We were firebombing Tokyo, you know, every day, all day long and all night. And the atom bomb was so dramatic that it ended the war, and we didn't have to invade Japan, which would have cost the Japanese 3 or 4 million people and would have cost us about 1 million. So I changed my mind on these things. But Joni was socially inept, but I liked her. We had fun together. She had a swimming pool. Her father had a lancha. You know, her mother was an intellectual. They were very into studying Cuba. So I had a good time, but we didn't have much in common. But one of the women I met was Joanne Leonard. And Joanne Leonard and I pretty much had a 1.5-year relationship when I was a sophomore and she was a freshman at Berkeley. And I got her pregnant, and she got an abortion. Her mother was very well connected. I really liked her father. Her father basically rescued dozens of very famous Jewish artists like Stravinsky from Europe, and all the musical people and artists And they all lived in Hollywood because of him. So I met all these people. I had a very privileged life. And Joanne and I, that was the first time I had sex with a woman. She really had very big difficulty in relationships. Her mother was a psychoanalyst and had basically messed her up by analyzing her behavior. She was just a mess. And she was Pollyannish. You know what that means? Do you know, David? Pollyannish?
Pollyannish?
Yes, Pollyanna. You know what Pollyanna is in literature? Everything is good. Everything is wonderful. There's never anything bad going on. It's like The Sound of Music, right? Here they are escaping from the Holocaust and they're singing, you know, the sound of music and running through the grasslands in Switzerland. That's Pollyannish. Totally unreal, right? You get it? And on the other hand, she really had trouble relating because she was really a very angry person. And she was very tied to her family and also trying to get away from them. Very typical woman's problem, even today, right? Being too closely tied to the family, wanting to be one's own person, having too much input from the family. I would say half the people who work at DARE, like Shuling, had that problem. Okay, and but I was, I guess, 18, sophomore year. What are you? 18 or 19, whatever it was. She wouldn't let me pick her up. She wouldn't let me go do the abortion with her, which I thought was terrible. I had offered to marry her. I was really in love with her. She was she still is a fabulous person. Great artist, great photographer. Really was, and we shared a lot of interests. We really liked child development, and she was, she was a full professor at University of Michigan, in both art and photography and in women's studies. You know, so we were politically and ideologically very similar interests. I had a lot of respect for her, but I lost it. I got very angry over this, that she wouldn't let me be part of this terrible situation we're going through. And she wouldn't even let me pick her up at the train station. And I lost it. I said, this is just not right. And she held that against me. And then finally ran off with a guy that I knew, Donald Buchla, one of the early inventors of synthesizers. But she was married only for a short period of time, had a kid out of wedlock, never could maintain a relationship. And I have a large number of women friends, both all over the world, because I get along very well with women. And they all tell me she was damaged goods. But at that time, I experienced it, as something I had done wrong. But I moved on, and I was on the high school gym team with Bob and Len Miller, who you hear about Bob all the time, and you hear about Len, right? And they're still some of my best friends. And we were on the gym team together, and Len went all city and won. And me, I was the worst guy on the gym team. I could barely do the basic exercises on the horse, the side horse. I could swing my legs around. I couldn't even do a circle on the edge. I couldn't do anything. I was weak. In free exercise, I would always hurt myself. I could tumble and I could do a backflip, but that was it, you know. I could do a handspring, but I would say, in the strength department, I was nowhere. And and in orienteering, then I took gym class after a while, and in gym class, when we would do the mile, I would be the slowest person out of 100 guys. But I had a lot of friends in high school. I had basically three groups of people, and I still see all of them. Gene is the only one who's dead. Everybody else is alive. And oh, that's right. I was counting the borderline women that I knew, and Narcissus, and Irene. I left out Irene. She was a narcissist. Len's first wife. His second wife is a borderline. So, and Peter Hallinan has also been a great chooser of women. But Bob always berates me for not having him break up with his first wife, because I knew she was really awful. So I've become more open about my criticisms of mates. And I would say that has gained me more trust of women. Women understand if they have to ask an opinion of what do I think of a guy, or a guy will ask what do I think of a woman, I will tell it to them straight and almost always be right. So women really trust me. And most men are not, don't deserve trust. They're not in touch with other people's feelings. You know what I'm saying? So, and I am. I read people. Now, what Tom doesn't understand is in real time I'm not good at it because of the ADD. But I don't live in real time except for inventing. So did I tell you enough about my social life? So you want to know about the groups? I mean, in college, I was really part socially of Slate. I mean, we would eat lunch together and discuss politics endlessly.